Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And that's why we're excited to be talking about Path United. We're honored to have with us Margaret Jane Strelecki, Regional Director with Path United. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Well, you all are doing tremendous work, and it focuses on mobile home park communities. And so before we dive in, give us some backstory, some history for the nonprofit organization.
Sure. So in 2009, our founders, Jim and Melinda Hollandsworth, were doing like a gift sponsorship in a mobile home park near their neighborhood in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And so they went and they met the family and they were like, okay, thanks for the Christmas gifts, but what we really need is help with our kids' homework. And so Melinda was a teacher. She was like, sure, I can do that. And so she started coming to help. And then other kids in the neighborhood heard about Miss Melinda coming. And so then they started coming and they were like, maybe we're onto something. And so over time it grew and they got a community center there, expanded into other neighborhoods. In 2012, the property manager here in Franklin heard about Path at a property managers meeting. And he called my boss and said, how do I get a Path in Franklin? He was like, I don't know anyone in Franklin. I don't live in Franklin. But he was coming up here for a meeting. He met the manager. He met Jason Hale at Rolling Hills Community Church. And they were like, let's start a Path. And so that's how it started in 2012. Fun fact, my husband is an original volunteer. So our family has been involved in some way since 2012. I came in 2016, so I started a little bit later, but that's kind of how it started. And so we now serve 8 different neighborhoods. There's 7 in Georgia, and then our site up here in Franklin.
When you look at the power of site-based work, going to where the need is, there's a powerful opportunity to build community, but also obviously, just like you're talking about, to invite the community, the larger community, to participate in the catalyst, the transformation. And so talk about the work you do.
Sure. Yeah. So that is definitely kind of the hallmark of what we do, is that it's within the community. So there in Franklin Estates, we work in Franklin Estates. It's a mobile home park in downtown Franklin. A lot of people don't even realize there is a mobile home park in downtown Franklin. So there we have a community center. The neighborhood gifted us a space to use, so we use it for free. And the kids come to us. And so we get to actually be part of the community and work with the kids, with the parents. This week, we're actually not having our regular programming. It's our home visit week. So my staff is going out to the mobile homes, meeting with the parents, talking to them, telling them about what's coming up, but also just engaging with them, because it was really important to us that we not do something to people, but with people, because we see that, yes, there are areas of need, but there's also a lot of areas of strength. And so we really want to help mobilize and support those strengths and kind of help fill in some gaps where we can.
Yeah. When you look at, what the families are going through, paint the picture, because I think in many cases there's, you think Franklin and you think affluent, but the reality is there are so many who are struggling. And I was looking, at one of the other nonprofits we've had on the show recently, and they were talking about how, the average income for their group is like $12,000 for the year. And so it's like, you think about just the gap that exists and the support needed to be able to help these families thrive. Share a little bit of kind of what the families are going through. So in other words, paint the picture of the families you serve.
Yeah. So start with their first or second generation Latino immigrants. And so a lot of families are coming here, basically starting over from wherever they've come from. And so when you think about poverty, we always think about monetary poverty first, but in fact, there are other types of poverty. And so there can be a poverty of education, there can be a poverty of opportunity, experience, relationship, there can be those things. So what I experience on a daily basis and what you would see if you got to know the families in Franklin Estates, there are levels of poverty, of financial poverty, of need, of, not knowing where my next meal is coming from. But more than that, we see a poverty of not understanding how the system works. How does the school system work? How do I get my kid into college? Why is it important that my child take honors classes? We see a lot of that. What does this report card actually say about how my kid is doing? And so we come in and look at where are the areas of deficit that we can support. And then that also comes with what I experience is a lot of, it's very working class, but dad's working 6.5 days a week. Mom's working a full-time job. And so, there comes then a poverty of just time, of not having time to be able to sit down and spend a lot of time looking over all of your options for your classes for next year. And so we kind of come in with some of that too, and just a lot of explaining. I had a realization. I'm a trained educator. That was my degree. My husband is a teacher. I'm looking at my kid's report card and I'm like, I have a degree in this and I don't understand it all. And I thought, surely someone who wasn't even educated in this country, like, they're going to have a hard time looking at this. And so that was part of what really interested me in PATH and why I got involved in the first place, was seeing that was part of what we do, is that it's just that support of coming alongside parents who are really wanting and doing the best for their kids, but not always having every tool in the toolbox to do that.
Touch on, you mentioned the in-home visits, you mentioned the tutoring, the schoolwork, the mentorship. Faith plays a role as well. Touch on the different ingredients, the puzzle pieces that put the puzzle together.
Okay, so if I had to boil down what we do in one word, the word would be relationships. So kind of everything we do is revolved around creating positive relationships. So interestingly, even though we started as a tutoring organization, we don't actually tutor anymore. So over time, as the organization grew and we started seeing graduates in Georgia, they started realizing that those graduates, yes, they graduated high school, and that's very important, but they were not flourishing in adulthood. They were surviving just fine, but they weren't living out a called life, living out thinking, I have all these opportunities and which one do I want to take? So we kind of said, okay, we went back to the drawing board and said, what are the ingredients to flourishing? How do we help set the kids up for the biggest possibility of flourishing? So we kind of said, okay, we're going to focus on 5 ingredients. So a relationship with God, which we are faith-based. And so that plays a part in everything we do. They're always going to hear about God. That's our worldview. That's why we treat them, how we treat others, all of that. That's our worldview. So relationship with God, positive adult relationships, as again, relationships. That's why we utilize volunteers, so that we can increase the number of positive adult relationships, strong reading skills, vision for the future, and social and emotional health. And so even that strong reading skills, we haven't totally forsaken academics, but we also know that their teachers and their schools are the experts. And so rather than providing more reading instruction, we're looking at, how do we make reading fun? How do we make you want to continue to read? How do we make it exciting? Our whole unit, this first part of the year, is how reading can be fun and enjoyable. And then with the vision for the future, you can't dream about what you don't know. And so we do that through a lot of field trips, a lot of exposure, bringing in new people. The word is new, like new people, new places, new things, new foods, all of it, just to create. My goal, because I get the opportunity to look at K through 12 and kind of look from a more global perspective. And I think my goal is that when that kid graduates high school, they have all these doors open and they get to decide which door to walk through. And, you can't have all those doors open if you haven't ever seen it. And so I think that's really important. I watched that interview with Franktown Open Hearts. He said the same thing, right? But you can't dream about what you don't see, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can't be what you can't see, and exposure, especially at an early age, is, the key to igniting new passions and opportunities, and, that opening their eyes, but creating those relationships that, help from a mentorship, a guidance standpoint. But also too, everything comes back to in life relationships. And so the more you can connect people, the more you create opportunities. Carry that into success stories. So share a few success stories.
Sure. So we really celebrate incremental successes. So when we think about success, we think a kindergartner all the way through a 12th grader. So we see little successes, trying a new sport at school, trying a harder class, talking to a new friend, all those things. We look for those incremental successes. But it's fun to talk about our graduates, of course. So this last year, we had the opportunity to graduate a student who had been in our program for 10 years. We've watched her grow up. She volunteered with us. So our high school students have the opportunity to volunteer with our younger kids. And so she volunteered with us. She was just amazing. I mean, we were so sad to see her leave. She graduated with a full scholarship, a full tuition scholarship to David Lipscomb. And so we're so excited for her. She's living on campus, which for a lot of our students is really scary, leaving home. And so she's living on campus. She's doing that. So I can't wait to see where she goes. She's going to major in biology, and we can't wait. Another success story that happened very recently that we're very excited about. So we have another student who came. I met her in 7th grade when she moved into the neighborhood. She also volunteered with us in high school and graduated and went on to do her own thing. And then she reached out to me and said, "Miss Margaret Jane, are you hiring?" And I was like, "Wow, you're young. I don't know. I don't know." And I said, "Okay, we'll have an interview." I mean, that girl blew me out of the water. And so now I don't think it gets better than hiring a kid that you've watched grow and empowering them to empower others. And I like to tell this story about her. So when we do our home visits, I actually don't speak Spanish, even though that's the first language of all of our families. And so I brought her along to translate, but also to kind of like coach on like how you do a home visit. She didn't need me. I mean, 30 seconds into our first home visit, she was off and running. Her and mom were having a full conversation, and I was totally superfluous, which was amazing, So I can't wait to see what this year is going to hold with her really investing in our students.
Talk about volunteerism, ways the community can support Path United.
Yeah. So our opportunity for volunteer, as I mentioned, relationship is really the key. When you boil it all down, it's relationship. So our biggest volunteer need is a weekly volunteer, is someone that's going to show up generally every week and be ready to just care about a kid. You don't need special skills. You don't need to be a teacher. You just need to care about the kid that's sitting in front of you and be willing to create that relationship. We also know that that's a big ask for a lot of people to say, we need you every week to do that. So my encouragement to people that are hearing this and thinking like, well, that all sounds great, and I want to form relationships too, but I can't do that. I can't make that commitment, is really just look around and love your neighbors, because that's really how this all started. Jim and Melinda were loving their neighbor, and they just kind of kept taking the next step forward until it was. So that would be my encouragement to anybody. Like, you don't need special skills. We just love our neighbors and are given the opportunity to do it. And so that would be my encouragement to anybody. Of course, if you want to come love a neighbor in Franklin Estates, we'd love to have you. So Franklin Estates has 3 sections. So we're actually this year, for the first time, expanding into the 3rd section. So we're getting to meet a whole new group of kids, and been praying for that for years. So we're very excited to be able to do that. So yeah, come on with us, or love your neighbor next door.
How has this work changed you personally when you look at your view of community, your ability to create positive change, your leadership? Like, how has this changed you?
Well, that we don't have enough time on this podcast to really talk about it. Certainly, my view of community has been impacted more than anything. No one does community like the Franklin Estates community that I work with. I know that I could contact any one of the moms that I work with and have before, and they would help me. They have babysat my kids. They have picked them up from school. They have brought me food when I was sick, and no one does community like that. And again, it's not special skills. And I think when I was young, I wanted to do something really big for God, or for myself, probably more accurately. And realizing that sometimes big is continued steps in one direction. It's showing up every week and caring. And so that's probably how it's changed me the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talk about, as we wrap up, website, social media, where do we go to learn more and get involved with Path United?
Yeah, so pathunited.org is where you can go. You can see about all of our sites there, and you can choose the Franklin site. There's also a place there if you're interested in volunteering, and filling out that form is in no way a commitment. It just kind of starts the process of getting more information. Facebook, Instagram, Path United, we put some pictures there. And yeah, that's where. We don't have a massive social media presence, but we're there.
So everyone go to pathunited.org to get involved with Path United. Margaret Jane, thank you for all you and your amazing team do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.